Thank you. It has been motioned and seconded. Um, At this time, all in favor, please say aye. And the motion is approved. And we are on to financial planning, attorney expenses. I believe that would be you, Ms. Nowlan.
Oh, you did, okay.
You see the report in front of you. Do you guys have any questions or concerns?
Well, hello, everybody, and oops.
Good morning, Mr. Hall, and welcome to the meeting.
Yeah, oops.
It's all right.
Anyway, glad Dr. Breedlove called me, so.
Yes, sir. We are now live in the meeting, and we are to number 3 on the of the agenda, financial planning, and 3.1 is attorney expense.
Any questions about the attorney expenses? Okay.
No, ma'am.
No?
I
No
do
questions?
not think there are any questions. On to 3.2, fuel and electric expenses.
And we are in the process of analyzing that data to look at kilowatts. We still have some issues with the prior data, the prior year data being put into the template. So we're looking at the kilowatt usage, and doesn't appear to be any savings at this point, but we'll do some further analysis and bring back to you all, having that total included that we paid Synergistics
Indeed.
prior
And,
to.
Board, I had requested that Ms. Nowlan look into our previous electric billing. About, how long ago has that been? About a little over a year ago that we canceled the Synergistics contract, which was in control of our energy, and their primary purpose was to save us money on our electrical bill. So I think that now a little bit more time has gone by, and we're to a point now, I believe, Ms. Allen, would you agree that we can go in and actually do a real analysis of how that's affected us this far?
Correct. And you know, all things being equal, we also did hire a staff member to kind of manage that in place. So that's what I'm going to be looking at. That salary related to the kilowatt usage, and then what we paid Synergistics altogether. So be prepared. I'll have that ready for you in the next board meeting.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that.
Any other questions related to bus fuel or electric that's on your reports? You will see again, local bus fuel does not have any expenses. Again, just as a reminder, as we start coming into the next few months, we'll be moving some local cost there. Okay.
Good. Okay, 3.3, PCS Board Report and PRC Summary.
Okay. So, as you all know, we added an additional report over these last few months, not just because you're only required to give a report at the 2-digit code, but with transparency, I wanted you guys to have as much as we could, and we kind of grow from there, adding reports. So this is the financial summary by PRC. So it's Fund 1 is state funds, and that shows all of the funding, and we're at like 50% expended. You know, it's that time of year, so we're right where we're supposed to be. A local, you can see we're about 58% expended, and federal 63%. And you will see one note on that report where we're expecting additional allotments in from DPI. So just wanted to note that that looks over budget, but we do have a technical number. We just have to wait for them to send the money down to put it on the books. Fund 4, almost 50% expended. Fund 5, 52% expended. And that's, so Fund 4 is capital outlay, Fund 5 is child nutrition, and then Fund 8 is our grant funding. So that's various, like, the nurses, JROTC, Head Start, Pre-K, any grant money that we have coming in. But overall, we're 51% expended as the district, which is right where we should be. We will be kind of pulling back and tightening down the reins and making some adjustments on our spending to make sure we come in at break even. We did a lot fund balance for this year to be spent for various, well, for the nurses and the things that the county gave us additional money, and we had to kind of meet in the middle. So we'll be doing some more of that in the next few months, and you'll see that by way of budget adjustments and things of that in these reports. Just to address the main concern, I think Monday I probably almost had a heart attack when they said they were cutting federal funding. So Brandon was like, I was burning up Brandon's phone, the superintendent was out of town, all of our people were, so we immediately went into that we're gonna turn off all federal spending until we knew anything. We do have almost $2 million in payroll for federal personnel. And if you guys could see my email chain of my surrounding districts really panicking, for us, we could cover payroll, right? So we're in a good financial position where we could do that. So we immediately went into mode to start minimizing everything we needed to do. I'm still holding my breath even though they reversed it. So they all know that I will be tight and stay tight on them for the spending moving forward. But it also gives light to how we spend, when we spend, because a lot of people that wait till the last minute to spend could have been in a really bad place. So I have to give props to our district for having the excess funding and then having the ability to react. And we will carefully watch that moving forward. So if you guys are concerned, I'm about on level 10 of your concerns. So just know I will make sure that we take care of that. Any
Very
other
good.
questions? And then the other report is just the overall at the 50,000 foot level. And you guys will see that there are detailed reports in here too. Anytime you have questions related to any of these moves or budget amendments, please just let me know.
Okay, board, do we have any questions about the financial report? Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, absolutely, and thank you for keeping us always in the black. We appreciate that.
It's a joint effort, and we really I appreciate all the help I get too. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, number 4 on our agenda, policy, strategic planning. 4.1, policy 3400, first read.
Good morning, Board. The next 5 policies I have for first read, 3400 all the way to 3460, are all related to new policies that have come out from the state as far as legislation for graduation requirements and grading. So I'm going to go through all 5 of them at the same time, if that's okay with you, if that's okay with the board. Okay. So policy 3400 was revised to add credit recovery in accordance with state policy, which was approved by the State Board of Education in December. In this policy, it basically states that credit recovery, you're no longer allowed to give a pass-fail for a credit recovery course if a student's taking credit recovery. What we do is we take the grade that they earned previous and the grade that they have for their credit recovery, and you average them together. to get their final grade. So that is for all core courses, right? Your English, math, social studies, and sciences. Also beginning next year for elective courses, we are still allowed to use pass-fail, but we're only allowed to use those for elective courses only. So those are all of your arts courses and things like that.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you wait till the end if you're done?
No, you can,
Okay.
anytime.
I don't have to tell what page I'm on here, but, under credit recovery, it says, I'll just read the last part of the sentence, resulting in a new passing numeric grade for the course.
Right.
So are they automatically gonna pass if they take credit recovery?
Not necessarily.
That was my question.
Yeah, not necessarily. So at the state level, this was a very big controversy because people were doing pass-fail, and students were credit recovering and doing pass-fails, and it wasn't counting towards their GPA. So you had students taking credit recovery getting 4.0 GPAs, and students not taking credit recovery, right? Not necessarily. It's a more true look at what they're doing in the classroom.
This does not replace, though, the opportunity that students have that are concerned about their GPA, and that, remember, our policy, as well as state board policy, allows students to take one course over again and replace that on their transcript if they fail that course. And so, some of our really tough classes, students sometimes struggle in, they could retake that and replace that score on their transcript, but you can only do that once in a year.
Yeah. And that's actually reflected in policy 3400R. So 3400R, we took the opportunity in the procedures piece to actually kind of spell out what that actually looks like. So if a student is taking 50% of a course, 50% of that grade will be averaged in with the grade that they had previously. So it's really based on the amount of the course that they're actually recovering. So if a student, got a 50%, but they only need to recover 25% of the course, we can create a course for them that only recovers 25%, and then we average those together so they can get a passing grade.
At what point does I'll be honest, I didn't know you could get an incomplete in a high school, I'll say in a high school course. At what point do we issue an incomplete? Is it health reasons? Or?
So typically, it's extenuating circumstances. Like if there's a serious issue, we will always try to work with the students and the parents, especially in cases like that. So if we need to issue an I for a course, we can issue an I. They can continue taking that course at the level that they're taking it, in Apex or another way, and then we can give them an actual grade. So we really want to try to not push kids into a credit recovery course if we can, for sure. Policy 3420 is about promotion and accountability. So one of the new laws that have come out as well is surrounding the career development plan. So you'll see on the first page, starting in 2024-25, students that are leaving 8th grade have to have a career development plan in order to matriculate to 9th grade. That's already in effect. However, starting this year, students that are in 10th grade can't go to 11th grade without actually having a revised career development plan. So that is, you'll see that listed there. And then what we also did to kind of spell out a little bit more, you'll see under section G on page 2 of the policy, we did put the credit recovery in there, but we spelled out more language as far as what credit recovery means in the definitions and what repeating a course means. Because a student does have the option to repeat a course if they have failed the course. And really, if you have a student that, got a 20% in a class, you'd really want them to repeat the full course rather than just taking a credit recovery course. So we have that there. They do have an option to take the EOC over again if it's an EOC course and take the higher of the 2 grades. when the student repeats a course and passes the course, they only earn credit towards graduation once. So it'll show up on their transcript twice, but they will only earn credit towards graduation, like their GPA once. And that's all that's in that policy. Any questions on that one?
What is credit recovery? Is that done online at home? Is that how they're doing that?
Most of the, sometimes it's done online, and we do have classrooms set up like in our high schools that they can go to, the distance learning classrooms, to work on it during a, a study hall or a period that they don't have a class. Sometimes they stay after school and can work on it. Sometimes they do work on it at home. It is pretty much at your own pace, so a student can work at their own pace to get that completed.
So if a student, if graduation, the student's a senior or supposed to be a senior, and school's out, graduation, they didn't graduate, so they can do credit recovery all summer long, all the way through till it takes them to.
Yes, sir. So what we typically try to do if it's a senior, we will typically try to get them into credit recovery and get that finished at a certain time, because then we do an end of summer graduation. So if we can get them done, then those numbers will still count for our graduation numbers.
Gotcha.
So we want to try to get all those seniors done if there's any extra. But on a whole, the principals do really, really good at trying to make sure our seniors have their credit recovery before June.
Okay, so let's say they don't do that. I'm just asking questions.
No, it's fine.
They didn't have this when my daughter was in school. So on credit recovery, let's say that you guys are out of school that summer. What does that kid do if he's having trouble logging on or doing whatever? Is there support there, or?
So we have coaches that are on staff that can support that. But we also have during the month of June, we do have some staff members that work specifically with the credit recovery. So if a student needs help, we've got office hours set up and things like that throughout the summer that they can actually work on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
How many students do we actually have? I know it varies year to year.
It
Take
does.
advantage of credit recovery.
I'm not sure. I can surely look into and get that number for you,
Yeah,
but I don't have that number now. Yeah, sure. I will get that to you and send it to you guys in an email. Policy 3420 really rounds down to students' promotion and accountability as well. In the past, in order for a student to go from a freshman to a sophomore, they had to pass English 1. And if they failed English 1, they couldn't go to the next, they couldn't matriculate to the next, even if they had 6 credits. Most of the counties in the state have taken that requirement off, and due solely to the fact that if you're a sophomore and you're matriculating to a junior, and maybe you didn't pass English 2, you now no longer qualify to take the ACTs in what would have been your 11th grade year. You still have to have all 4 Englishes to graduate. That's not an option. What we did was we just took it off the table so a student can matriculate to the next grade level and actually take advantage of those assessments that are at specific grade levels. We also added in there the career development plan that has to be revised by the end of your 10th grade year. You cannot matriculate by law without having a revised plan. And you'll see halfway down with transfer students, everything still applies, but if we do have a transfer student that comes into the district new, according to state law, they do have 90 days in order to either create a plan if they do not have one and or revise a plan. And those individuals, we have CDCs that are, keeping track of that. We have counselors that are keeping track of that. So there's a lot of moving parts to ensure that we have those things completed. The career development plan is spelled out in there as well for 8th grade and 10th grade on page 2. And the only other thing we changed in there was if a student for middle school, so we do have students in middle school taking high school courses for credit. And there's a chart in there you'll notice for these, they have to have a certain level on the EOGs in order to qualify for those courses. What we did was we changed somewhat. Principals do have discretion, but we really want principals to use data in making those decisions. So we added the language, if a student does not have an EOG for the placement in a high school course, it may be made by the principal based on multiple forms of data. And we listed things like benchmarks, common assessments, diagnostic assessments. We have tons of data collection that happens in schools, so they should have enough data to be able to determine if the student will be successful in a higher level course at the middle school. And the last policy is probably one of the most important ones that came out this year, 3460. So 3460 is all on graduation requirements. These are all effective for our incoming ninth graders. So all of our students matriculating from 8th to ninth grade, this is for them. You'll see at the top, we added the completion of the career development plan, so you'll see a lot of repeated things here as well. In Part A, we took out, you'll see the cross out of those things just because they don't apply anymore. They were from 2013, 14, 2015 as well, so we crossed that out. There was a chart that was in there, and it wasn't very readable, so I'm going to go past that chart and go to the one that we created to put in there for you to make it a little bit more readable. Some of those graduation requirements stay the same. You need 4 for English, 4 for mathematics, 3 for science, 4 for social studies. You still need a health and phys ed, and you have to have CPR, and we're doing CPR in our middle schools. The new graduation requirement is arts education. A student has to have 1 credit starting this year, our incoming ninth graders in arts education, and that will encompass any course that's a visual arts, theater, music, or dance. And these students that are entering ninth grade for the first time, if they took an arts course in 6, 7, or 8 that qualifies, right, we can give them credit for that course, and that can count towards their graduation requirement as well. Right now, the one course that we're looking at that does count is a year-long band. Does count, so any student that took a year-long band, when they matriculate to ninth grade, they will already have this arts credit. Next year's incoming ninth graders, there is a graduation requirement for computer science, and that's for 26-27. Computer science, there are hundreds of courses that qualify for computer science. Currently, we do a lot of it in CTE, but we're looking at ways that we can broaden that horizon for computer science. So you'll see that there as well. And at the end of the chart, you'll see there's 22 credits required by the state, 22 credits for occupational as well. And it is recommended in Pender County that our students get a total of 28 credits, which is all 22 plus the additional credits in Pender County. And then at the end of that policy, you'll see 5, 6, and 7. They no longer really apply, other than at 5, we left, it's not required for graduation according to the state, but 2 years of a single world language may be required by some UNC schools. So if a student is planning on going to a UNC school, we really want them to work with their counselors to figure out, do I need world languages? And we mostly offer Spanish in schools, but we have a lot of other options in NCVPS to do Latin, Chinese, Japanese, and all those other things. Oh, and then the other thing, just as an informational, in addition to the arts credit, they came out with a new arts endorsement. Not in policy, it doesn't need to be in policy, but if a student takes 4 years of an art and they earn at least a 3.0 in each of those courses, so they'll learn at least a B, right, in those courses, and they do 40 hours of extracurricular art-related activities. They can work for the Pender Arts Council or volunteer. They can, volunteer for the Cameron Art Museum and things like that. They get an art endorsement on their transcript, similar to like a seal of biliteracy and the seal for the UNC school systems, which is really, really exciting because we really want to push students to be interested and take those art courses as well.
I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Who works with these career development plans? Is it like the graduation coach or the counselors, or who is it?
So right now, it is a accumulation of a whole lot of people. The CDCs track it, which are in our CTE department, and we have it's a leveled because the CDCs then transfer it to the counselors, and then as they go through high school, we have to make sure that those things are done. So they have charts and spreadsheets and all that to make sure things are done. But there's a lot of things that are happening in those career development plans that happen, and this is something we're working on with Mr. Bates. We're working on embedding a lot of those activities into actual coursework because it shouldn't be something else to do.
It's gonna be a lot of work on
It,
Friday.
it should, yes, it should be naturally just happening in classes that if you're in English, you're talking about different careers in English, and same thing with science. So we want to seamlessly embed it together in order for it to work.
Each high school has a career development coordinator that's responsible for that school. CTE implementation, of course, they work directly with Dominique Bates all throughout the year, including the summertime. But I was at a meeting going over the career development plans and implementation. And I will say that Pender County Schools is well ahead of many districts across the state, and we are actually being asked to speak about how we got this far ahead on it, because we've been doing career development plans now for several years, and that's through Dr. Sawyer, Dominique Bates, of pushing this, knowing that this was coming for all students, so we wanted to be out front on it. But every over at Heidi Trask High School, every school, middle and high, has a point person for the career development plans. It might be the CDC, it might be a lead teacher, it might be a counselor, might be an administrator at that building, but somebody's taking point on that school to ensure that we are following through with this process.
Yeah, last month we had a career development plan kickoff meeting with a lot of the CDCs that are in our schools. Some came from Brunswick, some came from Jones County, some came from Onslow. We also had DPI there. At the end of the meeting, Dominique got a really, really nice email from DPI, and they requested that him and I go and present to be able to push this forward in other counties as well as what we've done in this county. So we've done very good implementing for sure.
Way, very good.
Yes, yeah.
How are parents involved in this process to help their child make good decisions?
So we have, what you'll see coming out now, in addition to graduation requirements and all of that, we have a program of studies that we updated with all the new requirements. And that we're making it front-facing and forward-facing for parents on the internet, right, on the site for high schools. They do curriculum nights at the high schools to bring parents in to talk about course selection, talk about what courses they need. We're doing information sessions this week, all week long, inviting parents to come and join us, and let's talk about courses, talk about honors courses, AP courses, what it means, you know, to take those courses and requirements and things like that. We will be pushing out a lot of this stuff as well in communication. It's just right now it's getting it into policy and getting it ready to go for our students. We also, with all of the new graduation requirements changing and middle schools picking up some of that heavy lift, we've created a program of studies for middle school, and it's the first one we've had in Pender County. We presented it to the counselors Friday. It went out to principals a couple weeks ago so they could kind of take a look at it, give us a feel. That will be going out and starting to be used in classrooms in 6, 7, and 8 to kind of prepare them for what they have offering in not only middle school, but what they have in high school as well for that transition.
Ms. Hanson, I think taking that one step further is kind of your question on, you know, will parents be able to support, see the career development plan, since the career development plan and the standard course of study for that student that they'll follow throughout high school should match one another, right? And so when we register a student for courses, well, let's take a look at the roadmap. What are you trying to accomplish in high school? And so that should be natural part of that student's pathway is working with the parent, and so that the parent knows, what is that child interested in, and how do I support at home?
Well, that was kind of where I was going. I haven't had two recent graduates. I was never involved in any process. They just came home and said, I'm taking this. I'm taking AP this. I'm taking AP that. Okay, well, is that where you need to be? I mean, you know,
Correct.
I want
Right.
you to be
Yeah.
where you need to be, and I want every kid to be where it's going to be to make them successful. And if parents want to be involved in that process was my concern.
And I believe it's going to be housed in Infinite Campus. Their career development plan is in there, and that would be something for us to work to make sure that parents know how to get in there, how to look at that, and how to actually access and have those conversations.
Right. I mean, those are conversations I would think they would want to have at home about what do you really want.
That's right.
Yeah.
What do you want to do with, with your educational career? Because not everybody wants to go to college. So-
Yeah. One of the goals we have in ISD too is increasing parent involvement in academics. And you see it as you go from kindergarten to 12th grade, right? Parent involvement typically drops off a little in middle, and by the time you get to high school, it really drops off. But we want to kind of bring them back into that fold because it's so important to be a part of what courses are you taking, what needs do you have, where do you want to go, what do you want to be, and really trying to align that up. So we're working really hard in the department to make sure that we provide the resources to families and things like that, and have those on our part, having family nights and having parents out, like, let's talk about this. What questions do you have, and those kind of things. So we're really trying to open that door to be more transparent and more, bringing them in. I will say to end this, because the arts thing is very exciting, we have student art being displayed until the end of March at the Cameron Art Museum. And anyone can go. It's a free to get in and see, that part of the exhibit. And we have students. We have 8 students in there, along with New Hanover County, Brunswick County, and Onslow. So feel free to visit the Cameron Art Museum.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 4.7, staff professional dress and student dress code update. I am so sorry, you're right. I thought all the policies were together. Policy 3621, first read, 4.6. Thank you.
Yeah, it's the gift that keeps on giving. A lot of policies got updated because of the new ruling from the state regarding credit recovery and things of that nature. This policy just brings our athletic eligibility policy up to speed with all the other policies. So, thank you. We'll put it on. I don't have to say much more than that, because you covered it all. Very similar wording as what you'll see. It just brings it back up to speed. And the recommendation would be to put it on first read for February 11th. Happy to answer any questions that you have about it, if you have any. Very good. All right, just want to talk through the calendar, excuse me, the calendar drafts that we have presented.
Now we are going
Dress
to-
code.
Sorry. See, I skipped the next one. Professional attire. We actually have 366 responses now. The document that you have in there was put in before the weekend, so we actually have increased that over the weekend. Just want to highlight some of the major components from the feedback that we received. A lot of it has to do with footwear, headbands, sweatband, things of that nature, and jewelry. Some of the common things that came up through the open-ended concepts were the difference between a nose ring and other facial piercings. That was one thing that came up. The other items that came up regarding footwear, sandals, dress sandals should be allowed, things of that nature. Doing away with, obviously, bedroom slippers and things of that nature, which are already in part of the policy as it stands now. And then the last part, there were very few comments about this, but if you look at I didn't give you the survey itself, the raw data. But there were three main items that staff requested that the board reconsider, or at least look at. Hats were on there, sweatbands, bandanas, sunglasses. There were very few comments made about this, so I don't know what they were asking us to or asking the board to reconsider. But it was one of the top, it was the third highest. I think it really boiled down to, it's a non-issue, so does it need to be in there kind of approach. I think the survey questions actually indicated, is this outdated? Does it need to be reconsidered? Things of that nature. So I think that's probably where that's coming from. And the very last component that I wanted to share with you guys today, there were open-ended feedback questions at the end where they could write whatever they wanted to. So I consolidated that down into really key themes. The first one was professional attire perspectives. I remember reading through one of the quotes, and it said that you can wear khakis and a button shirt and still look unprofessional. And that kind of stuck out to me a little bit. It was a pretty substantial argument, I think. Comfort and practicality comes into play. I think a lot of the feedback we received also indicated that, depending on what you are doing that day, may have some bearing on what you might wear. In other words, a work day, if you're going to be in front of parents or having parent meetings, that would step your dress up a little bit. Jeans came up a lot. I can't express to you how much a lot is, but almost every comment had jeans in it. Going with comfortable clothing, there's an argument for jeans being allowed, which we do allow jeans at the moment on sporadic days and things of that nature, and
Spirit days.
spirit days, right. So, that's something for the board to consider as we keep running through these components. Jeans should be clean without, rips and tears. Again, the comment about you can wear khakis and a pullover and still not be professional. And additional dress considerations, these were pretty common. Suggestions for allowing school spirit wear, discussions about appropriate footwear and accessories, and the concern about micromanaging teacher attire. Overall, the sentiments were they wanted more flexibility, more comfort, and trust in their professional dress choices. That's kind of the overall theme of the survey feedback that we received. So, again, we will temper this, pull everything together to work through a policy, several policy suggestions to present to the board once we're done with the data intake. So, the student one, not due to, but because of Parents' Bill of Rights, we are providing an opt-out form for parents to choose for their child not to take the survey. Those are going out. They went out on Sunday this week. Some went out a little earlier than that. So we're going to open up the student dress code policy for students and faculty and parents this week. At the very latest on Sunday next week, it'll be opened up. So students will have the opportunity to provide feedback. And we'll do the very same thing with that feedback, synthesize it and give you updates as we continue to go forward. So this is a challenge. That's calendar, dress code. Those are all things that draw a lot of attention. So we'll work through that together and try to come up with something that is enforceable and practical.
Just one question. Could you send the board a copy of those surveys?
Yeah.
So we could take a look at
Yeah,
what's going on?
the raw data or the survey itself?
Just the survey itself,
Okay,
please.
yes, ma'am. Be
Yes,
glad to.
I have one comment, under acceptable piercings, bullet point number 1. I know we would never want any wording to say, I would not, because it's interpretive, tasteful. Who determines that? Do you
Right.
determine that? Does the superintendent determine that? Does this,
Principal,
does the principal?
would
I mean,
think.
in my years as a planning board member, you need to make sure that you can enforce everything that you say.
Right. And
Just saying.
that's what makes this discussion and endeavor complicated, because everybody has their perception of what is right and what is not. And us coming to a census in the middle is what we're trying to do. So, still maintaining professionalism and all the stuff we need to, because we are professionals. And we need to act, look, all those things like professionals. So the student will come out soon, and we'll do the same thing with that. And I'll get those surveys to you guys as soon as we finish up today. Please give us some feedback. Please take the survey, in other words. The next item, 4.8, calendar adoption process. You have in your packet 6 draft calendars. The process we're in right now, as far as the timeline, they've been presented to the principals, who will take them to their school improvement team for review. They will also fill out a survey based on what their draft calendar favorites are. You have 3 for traditional. Those are the first 3 in your packet. And you also have 3 for Pender Lee. There is not an option for Pender Early yet, because we wait on the Cape Fear calendar to be produced to be able to work through that one. So just as soon as that is released, we'll put that together. Just some highlights, some things that we did differently for the 26-27 calendar. For the past several years, we've had about 10 work days in the beginning of the school year and about 10 work days at the end. And what that caused is not having the ability to have work days in the middle of the school year. Teachers need a break. They need to catch up. We need a chance for having parent-teacher conferences, student-led conferences, things of that nature. So what we've done is decreased those bookends from 2 weeks to 1 week and scattered those work days throughout the school year. To kind of give a perspective, we're gaining about 9 days on this 26-27 calendar. We went, the first draft is 174 days. The second draft for traditional is 176, and the third draft is 176. The difference in draft 2 and draft 3 are position of the spring break, position of the work days, before, after, having a half day or so in there. So small differences when you deal with the calendar law. The Pender Lee calendars are all 172, which is consistent with what we've done in the past with them. They are the only year-round calendar that we have currently. So these are the 6 that will have gone to the school improvement team for the principals to go through with their teams and provide feedback to us. Any questions or any suggestions?
Well, Board, I think that to say that we've gotten a lot of feedback from parents, and I believe even one student is an understatement. We've received a lot of feedback on this, and I noticed, quite honestly, on social media, there's been a lot of talk about this particular agenda item. Remember when you first came on board, one of the first things I said when I was made chair is we have a lot of really tough decisions to make this coming year. Well, this is our first really tough decision, and all I can say is make sure that you get all the information that you can, ask all the questions that you can, and if you can't, if there's something that you think about during the week when you're looking at this, feel free to give the superintendent or our assistant superintendent a call, because this one is important.
Yes. I'll say that my oldest child was in high school started high school when Dr. Cobb was here, but finished when Dr. Hill was here. In reference to the exams being before or after the holidays, can we be provided some information? And I know we've got, those are bookends with COVID in the middle of the difference in the test scores, perhaps, how they are. I mean, I just like to
We've
know.
actually done a lot of research on that.
Yeah, Dr. Breedlove and I have
Yeah,
already talked about that.
And Beth and I had talked about that, and she indicated.
How would you like that information in a presentation? I mean, I can cut right to the chase, and, when we talk about test scores in districts, right, we're looking at districts across the state. I literally took a map on 11 by 17 paper that has a picture of North Carolina and 115 school systems across the state. And in that, I separated out those that have waivers from the state based on 10 years of data on how many days were missed because of snow and that. And as you can imagine, there are 12 school systems that are automatically given waivers each year to kind of have a very flexible calendar, trying to keep within the calendar law, but they can kind of do what they want. All right, and those are all along the far western region of the state in the mountains along the Tennessee line, except for Iredell Statesville, I believe, is the only one, and they're a year-round school system or district. Okay, and so there are 12. There are 29 school systems that break calendar law in the state of North Carolina out of 115, meaning
break
that
it.
outright break it. They start on the community college calendar, all right, and start 2 weeks before the first Monday closest to August 25th, which is what the calendar law says. So they start early. So they get their days in ahead of time. And then there are a total of 31 school systems that are similar to Pender that don't break calendar law and test in December, all right, with their high school students. And in first semester at the holiday break, and then come back in January, like the 3rd, like we did, and start their next semester. So that leaves 41, 42 school systems across the state that don't break calendar law and then start their second in first semester and start second semester in mid to late January, going all the way then till June 10th, which is the calendar law. You have to end by June 10th. And that offers a much more balanced first semester and second semester, and that's really what we're talking about. Your daughter probably then tested in mid-January, starting 22nd, 23rd, something like that, typically on their second semester. What that does is give you as close to an 90-day, or 90-day, that's really what a balanced calendar would be, thus increasing the total number of days, that instructional days. And so we looked at all of that and tried to compare those that are like Pender, the 31, compared, and we took out the 12 that have a flex because they're all over the place. And then compared those that had more instructional days versus those that have less, like Pender. The data is inconclusive across the board. And it really, I mean, that's the honest truth. It's just inconclusive. There are school systems that outperform Pender by 10 percentage points and then there are school systems that score less than 10%, even though they have more school days. As you know, not all school systems are the same. There's so many factors that are involved, and most of it comes with wealth, all right, of a district, poor or very wealthy. And it's hard to compare apples to oranges, right? And that's really what we're doing. But think about your K through 10th grade students that are not on like the Cape Fear Community College calendar. That's really what, in my opinion, that this is all about. 85% of our students are K-10. 15% are 10-12. So 85% of our students, if you look at that, and then you cut out elementary, which is those foundational years for reading, math, instruction, literacy in math is really our core, right? Science and all of that. But we have to, as a board, in school system's going to do what you say and whatever calendar that you go with. As a superintendent, my job is to promote academics and education, first and foremost in this system, and think about the whole child development. I get that it's nice. I want to test in December before the holiday break, but not at the expense of a student's education. And I'll be glad to put a presentation together and go over all of this at the official board meeting, and give you as much time and consideration for whatever questions that you may have, and be able to present that to you. But I think your question really centered on what's the data say, and the data is all over the place. And there are some that have longer days that do worse than Pender, some that have longer days that do much better than Pender. So, what does it really mean? And I really think it comes down to what's in the best interest of all students across our system.
Yes, sir. And I know that at one time we had talked about comparing what the high school scores were prior to this new schedule that we had gone on, and COVID would have skewed that. And I think we're still catching up from the COVID lag.
I mean,
And
for Pender County, it's clear that our test scores have not, as a whole, met prior to COVID. And that's when the calendar changed for us. We went to a shorter calendar during the 2020 school year, 2021 and after. So we've been on that. And, once again, I think it's average of 14 days fewer per year. And that comes out to over a full year's worth of education lost for these students compared, because we're on the shorter calendar versus the old. That's just tough for me to swallow. And we have students that are on free and reduced rate lunch. They get free breakfast at lunch. We have, nurses. We have all of these student support services, and the more that we can provide them, because we have the personnel, and I want our students to be around our highly qualified teachers more versus less. And that's what that means. And all I can do is plead my case, and I'm doing it for the right reasons, but
And we need the rigor of the coursework. I'll say that because I have two in college in different states, and so we need to increase the rigor.
So can you make a presentation then? at
Yes,
the
sir.
regular board meeting?
I will.
That'd be great.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
The only thing I forgot to mention about the calendars is the difference in bank days. So we do 1025 hours instead of the number of days. We calculate by hours instead of days. We've had 5 bank days recently in our calendars. This gives us, if draft 1 gives us 10, draft 2 and 3 gives us 12. So we just went through the snow week. We were able to use some virtual learning days, things of that nature, but having those bank days is super important.
And remember, we're talking about the 26-27 calendar right now, all right? So we do have we do have time, as much time as really that you want. So I can, if we want to have this ready for, because we still have to do the surveys out to the community and all of that. So March, by the March meeting, really lay it out there and have it ready to go, okay?
I would appreciate that, yes, thank you,
Okay.
We just
Thank
get
you.
this behind us.
exactly.
Yes, one way or the other, right?
One way or
So
the
we can
other.
move forward, yes, yes, sir. Thanks.
And the strategic plan update,
4.9.
yes, ma'am. Just a real quick update, our steering committee was supposed to meet during the snow week, so we had to push that back. It is now tomorrow. At that meeting, the steering committee will finalize, or at least they finalize a draft to present to the board, the vision, mission, and core values. From that point, through the month of February, our school staff will get together and take those priority points and prioritize our needs and our structure of what the 5-year plan will look like, and present that to the board as well. So we're right on target, even though we had the snow week. We just got to catch up a little bit, and then we're right back in the swing of things. So this is an exciting project. It's something that, you know, when you really dig into it and you start to get all the input from all the stakeholders, it really is powerful to know, you know, you're not gonna make everybody happy. Everybody's gonna want something that's not in the plan, or maybe it's not, you know, it's not the first year, it might be the 3rd year. But it's our job to put together a plan to hold us accountable and to make sure we're doing what we need to do for the system. So, just wanted a quick update on that. Thank you, guys.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Taylor. And the next Mr. Taylor, 4.10, Policy 6125 Review.
Good morning. Primarily, I come before you today with recommendations in reference to helping our nurses at our schools perform their daily task more efficiently, but also on behalf of the parents who have children who are receiving medications during the school day. And secondarily, to more closely align our policy 6125 with the State Board of Education policy that is currently out there. At the beginning, as you'll notice at the end of the document, we started this process back in the fall because we were getting numerous requests for administering medications on school campuses during the school day that would have created a violation in our board policy. The first paragraph specifically talks about our inability to administer medication that is not approved for the purpose as stated by the FDA. Well, as we know, recently in the last several years, our physicians and other licensed healthcare providers are utilizing medications that are not necessarily put into a basket by FDA, but their medications are being used for things differently than what they originally intended. So this would allow us, and I can't give you specific medication or specific health conditions, but our nurses will be glad to provide that information to you when we bring it back for the next board meeting for first read. But, you know, secondly, we wanted to remove the word drug in a lot of those places and replace it with medication, obviously to be more reflective of the purpose of the policy. And then we removed the word doctor in a lot of places because obviously we have licensed healthcare professionals that are not necessarily doctors but are allowed to prescribe medication for our students. And upon review, Mr. McPherson, I think we captured all of your concerns. We added some additional liability protection language as well. So any questions regarding this policy? Okay.
Not
I'll
from me, sir.
bring it back February 11th for first read. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, number 5 was student services. I didn't see anything there. Number 6, instructional services. 6.1, EC teacher contract supplemental health care.
Good morning again, Board. We have a contract here from Supplemental Health Care for an EC teacher contract. It is a continuation. The teacher is already working in our building on a shorter contract, and this is a teacher at Surf City Elementary. Any questions on that one?
Board, any questions? Okay, very good.
Okay. The second one we have is the Head Start regular required reporting. This is a reporting that's required on, we usually do it bi-monthly and provide the report for you all. So currently, in our pre-K program, we have a total of 248 students. The average daily attendance is looking at about 85.4%. We do still have 41 students that are available on the wait list. And they have done 268 volunteer hours last month, 40 family meetings, 40 family education sessions. So they've been very busy. Any questions on Head Start?
For the first time, it truly is. For the first time since I've been on the board, I'm now on the Head Start committee, and I've got to tell you, I've learned so much in those meetings to know how much we are collaborating with all of them, and it's a good thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Proud to be part of it. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, number 7, operations. 7.1, purchasing, construction thresholds, policy.
Okay. So, we have a local policy, and the main one that we kind of wanted to draw attention to is 6420, which is contracts with the board. There are no red lines on these policies. This is more of a request coming to you to see what we are allowed to revise the policy to if agreed upon by the board. We have 3 other policies that are affected by this, but ultimately this is the one that is the controlling threshold of all of our bidding of construction work and purchasing thresholds. So those other 3 are 6440, which is local purchasing requirements for equipment, materials, and supplies. 6430, state purchasing requirements for equipment, material, and supplies. And then 9120, which is bidding for construction work. That sets the thresholds for how we should seek out bids for construction projects, as well as how we manage change orders. So this policy is kind of a ripple effect down the line, how we, my next item is K-8 construction change order. So if we have limits, but we have, committees or the director of construction, director of operations has certain thresholds, we still have to come back before the board, present this, and gain approval. So just to give you kind of a summary, I've been in 2 other counties that have had higher thresholds than this. It's also normal that counties that are maybe smaller and have smaller budgets, maybe 3 to 5 schools, have lower thresholds. I've seen it all the way down to 5,000 before they had to come before the board to gain approval on certain things. We are ultimately requesting the thresholds be raised to align with the state purchasing requirements. And there's several reasons why we would look at doing this. Construction is a fast-paced industry. A lot of the pricing now, ever since COVID, is, we have 30 days, or you may see prices valid for 15 days. And by the time it takes to get these items to you once a month for approval, some of these change orders or, projects or bids, unless we have special clauses in there, hold for 90 days or whatever it is, these, these quotes may vary. So more or less, this is an open discussion to see what we should come back to you for as a revision to policy. And Ms. Nowlin and her department, I can tell you from the requirements that the state sets that we must do, the audit standpoint in Pender County is very, very good. The local requirements that her purchasing department makes us go through when we get quotes, if it's under 30,000 or if it's over 30,000, regardless of coming to you for that threshold, the audit standpoint of what we did and how we got that quote is documented. And Jewel and her department really just lays down the rule book, and we have to there's several different forms that we have to follow If it's a $300,000 threshold for minority business participation, the hub, we have to post it to the IPS website. We have to make sure those good faith efforts and all of those affidavits are filled out. So she is our like backboard, or I don't even know if it's backboard. It's go or no go with Jewel. So Ms. Nowlin, if you want it to add to this, I am basically coming to the board for a request to increase. And to clarify, there's two different things. So purchasing of equipment, materials as supply may be a school, purchasing items off of Amazon. It may be transportation, purchasing a truck. That is a equipment, material supply. We will then request a different threshold, if approved by the board, for bidding of construction work that requires us to come before you for approval. So in other counties that I've been a part of, we've had a 300,000 limit for bidding of construction work that requires board approval. We have also had change order limits that have varied. It's whatever the board requests. So just keep in mind, there's two different things. There's a purchase of equipment, materials, and supplies that needs a threshold, and we request, I'm presenting 90,000. That aligns with the state. It gives the superintendent that anything over 30 still has to gain his approval and his signature, but anything over 90 has to come before the board. So if the trucks that I brought to you before last month, it totaled $172,000 or whatever the number was. In that form, unless it was a single truck, that required your approval. If it was under 90,000 and it was in the budget from the previous year, which just is gonna start, you're gonna see the ripple effect aligned with the capital improvement plan. So you're gonna approve projects that are identified being requested. Next year, July 1st, the team in operations is gonna start executing those things. So what we can do now to help raise those thresholds is gonna benefit us and will help us operate more efficiently moving forward. So I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Nowlin.
Yeah, I can assure you that I've been in several districts as well. Some not as well off financially, so I've seen the need for, and not having the things in place in purchasing to make sure that we have all those areas covered. Jewel does a phenomenal job in my department with that. She follows the rules. She's been doing it for years. And I review everything. So please know that you have my reassurance that I would not be sitting here as a finance officer supporting this increase if I didn't know the safeguards were in place. And then the other side of that also, I've dealt with other districts where we came back to add monthly reporting. So we can add reports to my reports on each month about any contracts we enter into. So any safeguards you feel comfortable with and getting to that point, we'll be happy to address any of those. Because we want to be transparent, but we also want to keep the projects moving. You all know, if you're in the industry, it's hard to get people to bid. It's hard to get people to honor the cost. Prices are always changing. So to be able to make our projects move quickly, I feel that Pender County Schools has the safeguards in place to assure you all that we're doing everything we can and doing our due diligence to get the best pricing and the best products.
And I would say to add to that, a lot of the thresholds that the board sets is because those practices are not put in place, and it was to reassure that maybe that gets developed first. So now that those practices are, the request to you to increase is why we're standing here today presenting this to get it onto the agenda. And I guess it's, I'm trying to find the words there. There's nothing from whether it's a state contract or if it's a $30,000 limit, there is, the team in Pender County Schools understands the guidance that the UNC School of Government and what the state laws are. So there's all types of different ways. There's piggybacking of other certain types of contracts. There's the state contract website, which I brought the trucks to you before on last month's meeting. And those processes still have to be followed. Again, just to help maybe outline this is just a focus of what your approval limit is. And to, like Ms. Lisa said, the audit standpoint or that monthly report or, semi-monthly report, whatever it is that, the board may request of a documentation of how the money is being spent down, whether it be a capital project or maintenance items of certain of these thresholds will be at your disposal. So, do I have any feedback on that? Of any requested limits or?
Board, I have a couple of comments, considering I'm the guy who reviews the contracts for you. As a practical matter, most of the boards I represent have moved their limits to 90 for superintendent authorization. I was here when it was moved to 30. And I think that the administration that was in place at that time is no longer here. I also think the board has changed significantly, and I also think that as a practical matter, Russ and Ms. Nowlin do bring up the incredibly valid point of the contingency pricing we're dealing with in the industry as a general rule right now is it's hard for contractors and subcontractors to stay locked in for more than 30 days. And I think that environment's not changing anytime soon. So now that you're asking for what my opinion is, but I do believe that this move to 90 would be a practical step to move the district somewhere it was previously. And I think I'm going to jump on the bandwagon of supporting Jewel, because Jewel Kaysen is amazing. She is fantastic. She is a hawk and brings up wonderful, wonderful questions. And between her and Ms. Nowlin, it's hard to get stuff past them as far as the bidding process, the RFQ, RFP process. You've got a very, very good finance department. So anyway, I'll stop talking unless you have questions.
I guess the request is to bring more efficiency to our daily jobs, particularly in this particular area, with the understanding that we would provide monthly reports on any contracts, any of these purchases that Russ is talking about to the board, so that you would have full transparency of what has been done with the Pender County Schools finances up to the limit that is set.
And to
Of course,
categorize it into
above that limit, you automatically get, right? Because you have to approve that.
So there's 3 areas: purchasing, construction thresholds, and then change orders. So there's kind of, I listed all these policies because they all touch each other. With this one being the most restrictive, it would be kind of like federal. If we had a hurricane flood, we're going to default to 10. Because 2 years down the road, when FEMA and the state comes in to refund us, Mr. McPherson, you understand this?
That would be nice.
Yeah, if you follow, yeah, this is going to be one of those things that if you follow the most restrictive path, you will be protected in the end, and there will be no question. So again, if it's a hurricane-related thing, you go immediately to the most restrictive. So set the threshold, everything above that way, there's no questions when it's all said and done with. So
For the board meeting, would you like us to put something together, and then would the full board, everybody is here to be able to then, as a presentation, to discuss it and vote on it?
As would I, and like I said, personally, I don't have any problem entertaining these increases, as long as, what we were talking about with the reports, as long as we are kept in touch with what we're spending the money on. Personally, I would have no problem with this.
Yep.
So, yes, we'll entertain it. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
we'll get those redlined and make sure they make it on the agenda.
Very good. Okay, now for 7.2, K-8 construction change orders.
Okay, so I did not provide anything via the Board Pro. What you have in front of you is basically an allowance log and a PCO log. So this PCO log is the one that has like the green and yellow with PCO on the front page. These are all the change orders that are flowing through the new K-8 project. So again, everything is documented, whether it be the system development fees, permit fees, the moving of a wall here, the changing of this, the board saying, well, I want to change one thing to another, or the name of a school, or whatever it may be. Everything, if it's ever, anything's changed from original documents, once it makes 100% CDs, it is documented here in this log. So we have several different pools of funds. We have a design build contingency in GMP 1 and GMP 2. We have an owner contingency in GMP 1 and GMP 2. And with the GMP, that is a guaranteed maximum price. So in there, when Bordeaux developed this and working with Mr. Taylor and Bill Nelson, the director of construction, and when they are set to deliver that, you have the other attachment, which are several different design build allowances or either subcontractor allowances that help develop that GMP. So they say, well, this may be an unknown, so we're going to develop this threshold of $100,000 for this type of construction that's coming up, or and put it in that GMP. So some of these change orders are change ordering money that's already in an allowance line item within the GMP. So therefore, as a district, we're not affecting or changing the actual contract value for Bordeaux. We're not increasing this. We are actually just applying a change order to one of the allowances, design build contingency or owner contingency, as it's outlined within the contract. And Mr. McPherson, you can, if I'm missing something from a delivery standpoint, I can get you to kind of maybe.
And I think the only thing I would add is making sure to pay attention monthly whenever Ben and Russ are reporting what is the status of your contingencies and what was pulled out. Because I do believe they do a good job of telling you monthly, where you are.
Yeah.
And that's where the reporting out is the important bit, because at the end of the day, what do we care about? We care about staying on budget. Well, these things are allowances. They're allowances on purpose because you knew they were coming. Now, they may be more, they may be less, and that more or less will depend on how much money is going to be left in that allowance or how much you have to dip into your contingencies. And I think that it's very easy when things are going copacetic to not pay attention to allowances and contingencies. I will say that over the next 9 months is when you will see more impact on those contingencies as you're actually doing the physical things or changing the drawings or making things go together the way they need to go together. And that's where that, asking the questions about contingencies are huge. These allowances and, change orders, whatever you want to call them, I don't necessarily know that I would ever constitute an allowance, use of an allowance and change order. It is, definitionally, I don't disagree with that. But it's something that was expected. And I think as long as you can wrap your minds around making sure you ask that question every single month, about contingencies, if it's not getting reported to you, I think you're in a better situation. Yeah, Russ, that's.
Yep. So to have that conversation, and thanks, Brandon, for kind of like explaining that this can be something that we present just as information every month, or what the status, whether it's from my department or Bordeaux. I plan on bringing 3 to you, because not only do how do we approve it, and what does this hold up? So if you hold up construction schedule, you incur fees. And if we do not get this approved in a timely manner, the GC can say, well, I'm not moving forward without a signed change order. So that generates a little bit of problem. If we throw a construction threshold change order in there, which is the first one that I'm going to bring to you. So and what we're going to probably look at is PCO number 8, number 10, and number 11 are the ones that will come before you next week. So the first one is install line stop valves per Pender County Utilities. It's $59,000. That is, we have all permits in place. It is a wet tap on a 12-inch water line, and it has got to happen. All the permits are done and approved, but this is, again, over my threshold. I can't approve it, so I need the board's approval. Yet again, it's holding up a timeline that needs to happen at some point in time. I'm gonna have that change order as backup documentation in the agenda for your review. But the cause of this is a post-bid comment. So we have an allowance line on page 2 for incorporate DPI, Pender County, et cetera, post-bid comments. So, system development fees was PCA number 1 that we've already approved at a previous board meeting. That's established, that's the cost of the infrastructure impact that we're making by building this new KA. But a post-bid comment came from, after further review of the as-built within Pender counties, the impact by shutting this line off was going to affect too many customers. And we can't do that, so we have to do it live. Well, this is a change, but also was not identified through Pender County. This is something that's been development or else that we feel that this is the appropriate line item to charge this change order to. And it's covered within the allowances. So next week, this is one of the change orders that I'm going to be bringing you. Number 10 is provide trained HVAC controls. That's a zero-cost change order that I'm still seeking approval on. It's just moving from one control system to another to standardize across the district moving forward. One of the subcontractors that presented, that is the subcontractor on the job, is presenting this change at no cost, and that is the recommendation from the operations team to move forward with that type of product. And the last one is going to be a credit for burning. There's been some burning going on site, and through some different languages across the scope, we felt that we talked to Bordeaux and said, hey, we kind of agreed to disagree on this, and we were working through this contractual matter, and they have agreed, gave us a credit for some of the burning in some of the parts of the scope of the project. So that's coming back and will be credited back to owner contingency for future use of Pender County. So those are the 3 change orders. And there are several others listed, but it's just not time to bring those. This is, as it comes up, we document them, we talk about them, and it's time for you to approve. We'll make sure it gets in front of you. You have any questions about that? Okay.
What's more of a comment, we are contractually obligated, Bordeaux is contractually obligated to us to come give us a monthly meeting, correct? Okay, so when Bordeaux comes in for that monthly meeting during our monthly board meeting, that would be a great time for you to, if that's where you're going with this, to let us know what the change orders are, and we will have them right there to answer any questions that we might have.
Okay.
So I think, yeah,
Perfect.
that could work well.
Yep.
Okay, does anybody have any more questions about change orders? Okay, on to 7.3, RFQ approvals.
Yep. So we have 2 RFQs that is going to be brought to you for approval at this month's meeting, and they are for commissioning services of the new K-8 and for on-call architectural services. I think you heard me present it last month in information. Basically, we have received those proposals. We have developed selection committees, and we are reviewing that. I just don't have all that information to talk about it at this time. So it will be ready by Tuesday to get onto the agenda for your review. But again, this looking down range of where these are going, the commissioning services are what they are. They're going to ensure multiple site visits, early review of submittals, going out ensuring all of our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing is being installed correct, all the way through overseeing that our maintenance team gets the proper owner training that we need per contract documents. So it's also just making sure our lights turn on and stay on when they're supposed to, and that all the HVAC works as, in conjunction with our building automation system. But the on-call architectural services is a great thing, and this aligns to some of the purchasing thresholds that we are requesting. Our capital improvement plan is going to go from $30,000 projects to $2 million projects, and that's where we're at as a county. So knowing that getting this person in and the modernization of our classrooms, the additions that we need, there's a lot of things, whether it's just a front entrance or bathrooms at Pender High, or whatever these projects are that are coming down the pipeline, they require an architect. And part of this RFQ too is to develop a long-range plan and identify the cost. So that CIP is going to start being developed, but it's going to be the backup documentation we need for the county to develop what those projects are. And do they require a bond participation, or how do we get these achieved looking downrange? So just know that that's what that's for, and it will set us up for success moving forward. Y'all have any questions about that one? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, and I guess that concludes the business end of this meeting today. And before we ask for a motion to adjourn, I just wanted to commend the two new board members up here. You guys were asking some really good questions today. Thank you very much. Okay, and at this time, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Ladies first.
I make a motion, we adjourn the board meeting.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.